Today, I'm going to do an overview of one of my back prep routines that I'll typically do in the morning to prepare my body, relieve my back from any pain I have, any tension in my muscles and my joints. So what I like to do is a combination of two different techniques: progressive muscle relaxation in combination with dynamic stretching. And we're going to work specifically in the upper and lower back muscle region, as well as the surrounding muscle areas. Brief explanation: PMR, progressive muscle relaxation, is controlled skeletal muscle tension. So typically what you do is a series of maximally tensing your muscles for a handful of seconds and then you relax them. Dynamic stretching, you pick movements that closely relate to whatever activities or sports you typically do. You actively but slowly move your joints through that range of motion. I do resistance training, so today I'm going to combine typical strength training exercises. You just use my body weight though, but I'm going to squeeze all of my muscles as if I'm lifting something extremely heavy, especially focusing on the target areas that I want pain relief from. Every morning is different and the length that it takes me to do this is different, but today's back prep I did 2 rounds of 6 different exercises. And for each exercise I do a minimum of 10 reps. I will often do more than 10 reps. It just depends on how I feel. I'll rest for a handful of seconds and then switch on to the next movement when I feel ready. Before moving into the main set of movements, I just start with a bent knee fold over. This opens up my back, gives my hamstrings a nice gentle stretch, and then I like the bent knee because it takes the stretch or tension out of your knees and just keeps it in the hamstrings, the glutes, the back. And I just let gravity take over my spine. So this is a nice little decompression stretch. This is gentle. I'm not doing any muscle tensing or tightening really. This is just to completely open up my back. So I do this for as long as I need to prepare my body for the more intensive set of exercises. For the squat, so I started out with quicker movement. I'm not tensing my muscles as much when I get started. I'm focusing on my form, proper spine placement, leg placement, and then gauging my range of motion. And then I will ease into a slow controlled speed and start increasing the tension in my muscles. I'm keeping tension in my low back, making sure that that stays in place and it's steady. That's where the main tension is staying. That's an isolated contraction. And then my glutes are driving the movement as well as my hamstrings, but I'm still using those muscles as if I was carrying weight on me. So imagining carrying a lot of weight so that you have to tense and tighten your muscles to support that imaginary weight. Adding on a fold over to the squat for the second exercise, and the fold over looks a lot like a Romanian deadlift. So we keep our knees slightly bent and hinge at the hips. So you send the hips back while you lean forward with your torso, and I only go down as far as I can where my hips stop hinging back and before my back rounds, because we want to keep that torso in the same rigid position throughout the entire exercise, because we're keeping our muscles tense around not only our low back but also our core. So you can use your hands to just kind of help you think about that a little bit more. I do that a lot. I use my hands a lot on the muscles that I'm working just to keep that mind to muscle connection going. And then once you do the RDL, you just lift your torso up and then lower back down into the squat. Keep your glutes squeezing, your hamstrings squeezing, and then keep repeating those 2 motions. Moving into a lateral lunge for the third exercise, which is going to be a nice hip opener. It's going to give you a nice inner thigh stretch. We're having the same rules apply for this exercise where we keep a neutral torso. We're keeping that core nice and tight and stabilized while we're moving continuously through our lower body, maintaining tension throughout all of our muscles. We're not giving any release until the reps are over. Next, we've got kickbacks. We're going to start on one leg, complete the reps, and then move into the other side. For the kickbacks, we're using the single glute to lift that leg up while trying to keep every other muscle in our body as stable as possible. So isolating the contraction of those muscles throughout the entire body, except for that glute muscle group that is moving the leg up and down. And the same thing for fire hydrants. We're going to stay standing, but this time kick our leg out to the side and bend our knee at roughly a 90-degree angle, and trying to keep my hips square. I do struggle with this one, trying to keep my hips down instead of opening them up too much. I'm really trying to focus on squeezing through those hips and the glutes to relieve any tension that I have in there. Getting more into the upper back, we're gonna do a basic tricep stretch. We're gonna start on one side, do the other side, and then move into both. As I'm moving into the tricep stretch, I'm using my opposite hand to help guide my arm into position, and then I will start actively tensing the muscles in the shoulder that's experiencing the stretch, and then release the helping hand and try to keep that stretch in place using simply just my muscles. So the goal of all of these exercises is basically you're tensing your muscles to stretch your muscles. And I think that this is probably a good, simple example of how to do that. It's actually quite difficult. It took me several sessions to be able to get to this point where I can hold my tricep up here in a stretch without a helping hand. And now I can do both arms at the same time. And it honestly feels so, so good. My triceps get a stretch, my neck gets a stretch, my shoulders get a stretch, my entire upper back, really. And it's a fantastic movement that you can add in throughout the day at any time. This is also a static stretch. It's not a dynamic stretch, so we're not doing repetitions. We're simply holding the movement for a handful of seconds, switching to the other side, then doing both, and then we're done. And after 2 rounds of those movements, I concluded by performing a seated figure 4 stretch. And instead of using my hand to press my knee down to engage in the stretch in my glute and my hip on that top leg, I'm gonna use the muscles in that glute and hip to cause the stretch, which is the same thing we just did with the tricep stretch, but now we're gonna do it in our hips and our glutes. So we're gonna do a static stretch here, actively pressing our knee down using the glute muscles and the hip muscles in that same leg. And then I also performed an additional tricep stretch just to help keep my back upright. I'm really trying to avoid rounding my back too much in any of the exercises. I really want to enforce that neutral spine in pretty much every movement that I do. So that concludes the warm up for my back prep. These run anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, just depending on the day. And they change all the time, so I can do more of these. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.